You know, we would love to talk about hockey all day long, but we have to talk about this because here we go again. It is tax time. For many of us, that means worrying about what to do with our RRSP. So we're consulting the man who wrote the book quite literally, Bruce Sellery, a Money Sense columnist, author of the Moolah Guide to Rocking Your RRSP. I would love to rock my RRSP.
You can't say that without smiling. You were just rocking it.
Yeah, well, you know, I like to rock, but I don't know how to rock my RRSP. So
I will help.
We have some pressing questions.
Yes.
First of all, I want to talk about something that was in today's Parent. You can catch that on next issue. RRSP versus RESP. I think this comes up every year. You're a bigger fan of the RRSP. How come?
Number one reason, I don't want to be working at Starbucks when I'm 80.
Good call.
I mean, I would be great. I'd be very charismatic and I'd be warm and fun. But I think there are things that I'm going to want to do when I'm 80 that are not being a barista at Starbucks.
Yes.
And here's the big thing. RRSPs, this is the time to save. RESPs, Abby, my 5-year-old, could take a job or get a loan to pay for her education. So the first reason is she's going to have so many more ways to pay for her education than I am going to have to pay for my retirement.
Right.
Number one. Number two is the math. If you save that money in an RESP over the course of years, you'll have about 80 grand when Abby is 17 years old and starts to need that money.
Right.
If I save that same amount of money, but just let it sit there from when Abby's 17 until I'm like 70 or whatever, it's going to be worth 300 grand. So it's much more money. Now, this is assuming that you've only got 2,500 bucks and you have to choose one or the other. Most families balance it, right? They put a little bit to the RRSP, a little bit to the RESP, and a lot to their mortgage.
Right.
So that's my guidance. RESPs, the education savings, are just kind of easier because it's a smaller amount of money and your kid's looking up at you going, I want to leave the house one day, and you think, yeah, I better save for their education.
Okay, so if given the option, though, you can do a little bit of both?
Do a little bit of both. If you can do a little bit of both, do a little bit of both.
Okay. Let's talk about the financial climate here in Calgary. Layoffs are happening. People are scared. So when it comes to RSPs, you know, the markets are taking hits. What do we have to be concerned about?
Well, here's the thing that always remember, is an RRSP is simply a container.
Right.
So you can make your contribution and leave that money in cash. So if you're really worried about the stock market, that's okay. Still contribute to your RRSP, just leave that money in cash until that fear abates for you. The bigger question, I think, is what does your future look like in this economic uncertainty?
Right.
So there is both practical and logical fear and irrational fear. So for example, if you're a teacher with a lot of tenure and you've been with the board for a long time, your job isn't at risk in the way that it's at risk if you work for an oil services company, for example. So I would really think that through and look, okay, so what's going to happen? Is it likely that I will get laid off? And if I do, what happens to the mortgage payment? So if that's a real practical concern, then you would say, maybe you don't contribute to an RSP this year.
Right.
Maybe you take that 10 grand and you say, you know what? I'm just going to feel better if I've got a couple of months of my mortgage payment sitting in a savings account just in case.
Because don't forget, if you've never cashed out an RSP, some of us maybe have.
I don't know.
There's a penalty. There's a serious penalty.
Yes, there is. Because basically what the government assumes is, well, you just earned that income.
Right.
So all that tax that you deferred, you're now paying. Thank you very much. Would you do it again?
No.
No.
I was really young.
I know. We do things when we're young.
Now, talk about diversification of RSPs. I mean, sometimes those things are really hard to decipher when they're telling you where your money goes.
Yeah, and you don't have any idea, and really you just want to have a nap, is kind of how I am when you want to talk about it. So basically, diversification is not putting all your eggs in one basket. And that's not just asset class, so it's not just stocks versus bonds, but it's regions too. So like Canada versus Asia or whatever. Here's the number one thing, is you want to diversify between safe fixed income and riskier stock market. And the rule of thumb is fixed income equals your age. So in your case, as a 30-year-old, you would have 30% of your portfolio in fixed income, just as an example, and 70% in the stock market. And as you get older, that percentage of fixed income rises, but you will never age.
I love you even more. Bruce Sellery, we can find you in so many ways. What's the best? In so many places.
Today's Parent, Chatelaine, Money Sense, Cityline, BT, at Bruce Sellery on Twitter. I better tweet about this.
You should.
See, if I were a 30-year-old, that would be the first thought I would have, but I'm not quite 30.
Well, I'm not going to tweet, but I'm going to throw it on over to the Max Ballerina. Here's Dave with Look at Her Roads.